A bow is a fragile thing, at once a weapon and a challenge, a test not only of the archer's skill, but of their ability to understand tension and release, aim and consequence. To wield it poorly is to risk ruin. To wield it well is to transform distance into precision, silence into song. These words resonate deeply when we think of the intersection of craft, intent, and the symbolic power of tools, be it the archer's bow or the writer's pen. In today's episode, we explore a story where a bow becomes more than just a weapon. It transforms into a symbol of choice, strength, and submission to a purpose greater than oneself. C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia is rich with allegory, and among its many powerful symbols, the bow stands apart. Gifted to Susan Pevensie, it carries a weight far greater than its physical form, a reminder that even in fiction, tools demand understanding and respect from those who wield them. Lewis, a man whose life was shaped by both profound loss and unwavering faith, understood this deeply. His works reflect a mind sharpened by the horrors of war and softened by the redemptive power of storytelling. The bow, bestowed by Father Christmas in a moment suffused with hope, becomes a token of divine trust, a test not just of Susan's ability, but of her faith in something greater. It is, in many ways, an allegory for Lewis's own journey, the tension between doubt and belief, the precision needed to find meaning amidst chaos, and the faith that transforms action into purpose. As writers, we too are given tools, fragile, potent, demanding. Like the bow, they require not only skill, but discipline, and above all, an awareness of the weight they carry. In this episode, we reflect on Lewis's life, his symbols, and what Susan's bow teaches us about craft, faith, and the choices that define the paths we walk. Join us as we draw the strings of meaning and take aim at the heart of what makes stories resonate beyond their pages. "Susan, Eve's daughter," said Father Christmas, handing her a bow and a quiver full of arrows. "You must trust in these when you have no other choice. These are not toys. They are tools to protect, not to harm, and they will not easily miss." The lion, the witch, and the wardrobe. In these words, Father Christmas offers Susan Pevensie a bow, a tool that will come to symbolize much more than mere combat readiness. It is a turning point not just for Susan, but for Narnia itself, a world where weapons, like the beings who wield them, are imbued with deeper meaning. The bow represents the convergence of agency and moral responsibility, a delicate balance between the necessity of war and the pursuit of peace. In the Chronicles of Narnia, archery is more than just a skill. It becomes a form of expression, a physical manifestation of the character's inner strength, will, and virtue. For Susan, the bow is a metaphorical extension of her journey from doubt to self-assurance, from innocence to understanding. Archery in Narnia finds its origins in the ancient echoes of myth, where the bow has long been a weapon of both gods and heroes. Lewis, ever the scholar of classical mythology and medieval romance, likely drew upon these traditions when crafting the magical and moral landscape of Narnia. The bow is both an ancient symbol and a practical weapon, and its appearance in Narnia is no accident. In mythology, archery often represents a duality, both the distance between the archer and their target, and the intimacy of the moment when the arrow strikes true. In Narnia, this duality is constantly at play. The archer stands apart from the chaos of battle, but their actions are direct, decisive, and impactful. The roots of archery stretch far into the annals of human history. In ancient Greece, archery was the skill of Apollo, god of the sun, music, and prophecy, whose silver bow was a symbol of divine wrath and judgment. Similarly, in Norse mythology, the god Uller was a master archer, revered for his ability to traverse vast snowy landscapes with his bow in hand, embodying survival in harsh conditions. These cultural archetypes undoubtedly shaped Lewis's depiction of the archer in Narnia, where archery is synonymous with the pursuit of justice and the protection of the innocent. Lewis, deeply influenced by his Christian faith, also imbues archery with spiritual resonance. The act of pulling back the string, of aligning the eye with the target, echoes the moral choices faced by his characters. The archer, poised between release and restraint, mirrors the human condition, caught between free will and divine providence. In Narnia, every arrow loosed is a moment of moral reckoning. The bow becomes an instrument not only of war, but of personal clarity, a way for Lewis's characters to confront their own beliefs and responsibilities. Among all the characters in Narnia, it is Susan Pevensie who most closely embodies the archetype of the archer. When she receives her bow from Father Christmas, the weapon is described not merely as a tool of combat, but as a guardian of truth, a protector of what is just. This moment is charged with symbolic significance. Susan, known as the Gentle Queen, must learn to reconcile her gentleness with the harsh realities of war. The bow, a weapon that requires distance to be effective, reflects her internal struggle. She must engage with the world without losing her core values of compassion and empathy. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Susan's first significant use of the bow comes during the battle against the White Witch's forces. Her shot is not wild or reckless, but precise, calm, and sure. It is a reflection of her growing confidence in her role as both protector and leader. The arrows she fires are an extension of her will, guided by the knowledge that she fights not for power or glory, but for the preservation of Narnia itself. Lewis, through Susan's character, suggests that true strength lies not in brute force, but in the ability to act with precision and care. Susan's journey as an archer is emblematic of her personal evolution. Early in the series, she is hesitant to embrace her role as a warrior, much like her initial reluctance to believe in Narnia's magic. However, as the stories progress, Susan's mastery of the bow becomes a symbol of her growing self-assurance. She transitions from the uncertain girl who stumbles into Narnia to a queen who stands poised, bow in hand, ready to defend her people. Archery, for Susan, is not only a means of survival, but a path to self-discovery. While Susan is the most iconic archer in the Narnian Chronicles, she is not alone in wielding the bow. Several other characters take up the weapon throughout the series, each bringing their own unique approach to the art of archery. Notably, Prince Caspian, the rightful heir to the Narnian throne, is also skilled in the use of the bow. His archery is symbolic of his connection to Narnia's ancient traditions, as well as his role as a leader who must fight to reclaim his birthright. In Prince Caspian, archery is depicted as a noble pursuit, one that requires both skill and moral integrity. Caspian's use of the bow, like Susan's, is tied to his personal quest for justice. He fights not for personal gain, but for the restoration of Narnia's true order. His arrows, like those of Susan, are aimed at restoring balance to a world that has been thrown into chaos by the forces of tyranny and corruption. The contrast between male and female archers in Narnia is also worth noting. While Susan's archery is often portrayed as an extension of her gentle nature, Caspian's use of the bow is more closely tied to his warrior ethos. However, Lewis does not fall into the trap of reinforcing traditional gender roles. Susan's bow is every bit as powerful as Caspian's sword, and her skill with the weapon is depicted as equal to that of any male character. In this way, Lewis subverts the typical expectations of gender in fantasy literature, allowing his female characters to wield power and influence on equal footing with their male counterparts. In the Chronicles of Narnia, archery is more than a physical skill. It becomes a metaphor for decision-making, purpose, and moral clarity. The archer, poised between tension and release, mirrors the precise moment of choice in life's broader narrative. For Lewis, the bow and arrow represent both the agency of his characters and the spiritual struggles they face in navigating right and wrong, good and evil. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when Susan Pevensie first takes up the bow, she is uncertain of her ability to wield it effectively. Much like the reader, Susan is thrust into a world of magic and danger, where she must quickly learn to navigate the complexities of war and leadership. Her initial hesitance mirrors the universal human fear of stepping into unfamiliar territory. However, as Susan grows more comfortable with the bow, she also becomes more confident in her decisions, marking her journey from uncertainty to empowerment. The act of drawing a bowstring, aiming, and releasing an arrow is laden with symbolism. It requires focus, determination, and an understanding of the gravity of one's actions. Lewis uses archery to explore these themes of precision and purpose, especially in moments where his characters face moral dilemmas. When Susan or Caspian draw their bows, they are not just shooting arrows at enemies. They are making profound choices that reflect their understanding of justice and duty. Moreover, archery in Narnia is often portrayed as a solitary act, requiring the archer to rely on their instincts and inner strength. Unlike sword fighting, which typically involves direct engagement with an opponent, archery necessitates distance and patience. The archer must be calm, focused, and sure of their aim before releasing the arrow. This element of isolation reflects the personal nature of the choices that Lewis's characters must make. Whether it is Susan deciding to fight for Narnia, or Caspian reclaiming his throne, their use of the bow underscores their personal journeys toward fulfilling their destinies. In this way, archery in Narnia is deeply tied to the concept of the hero's journey. The bow becomes a symbol of the individual's ability to effect change in the world, to strike at the heart of injustice, and to fight for what is right. Lewis's characters, through their mastery of the bow, demonstrate that true heroism lies not in brute strength, but in the ability to make difficult choices with clarity and purpose. One cannot fully understand the significance of archery in Narnia without considering the world in which it takes place. The landscape of Narnia is vast, wild, and untamed, filled with dense forests, towering mountains, and vast plains. It is a world that is as much a character as the humans and mythical creatures that inhabit it. In this environment, archery takes on an even greater significance, as the archer must rely not only on their skill, but also on their relationship with the natural world. The bow, as a weapon, is intrinsically linked to nature. The materials used to craft it, wood for the bow, feathers for the fletching, come from the natural world, and the archer must understand their surroundings to use it effectively. In Narnia, where the forces of good are often aligned with the natural world, and the forces of evil seek to dominate or destroy it, archery becomes a way for the characters to connect with the land and its creatures. Consider the scene in Prince Caspian, where the young prince takes to the forests of Narnia, bow in hand, as he seeks to rally the old Narnians in his fight against the Telmarines. The wilderness is both his refuge and his ally, and his bow is a symbol of his connection to the ancient ways of Narnia, a land that thrives when its people live in harmony with nature. The act of archery, with its reliance on skill, patience, and understanding of the environment, mirrors the harmony that Caspian must restore to Narnia itself. Nature, however, is not always a benevolent force in Narnia. The wilds are also home to danger, both natural and magical, and the archer must contend with these challenges. In moments of peril, archery becomes a test of survival, requiring the characters to rely on their wits and instincts to overcome their adversaries. This duality of nature, its capacity to both nurture and threaten, reflects the broader moral landscape of Narnia, where good and evil are in constant tension. C.S. Lewis, as a scholar of medieval literature and a devout Christian, was deeply influenced by the themes of chivalry, morality, and spirituality that permeate his works. His fascination with archery can be traced back to his lifelong interest in medieval romances, where the bow often symbolized nobility, heroism, and divine intervention. In medieval literature, archery was the weapon of the just and the righteous. Robin Hood, the archetypal English archer, used his bow to fight against tyranny and corruption, defending the poor and oppressed. Lewis, who grew up reading such tales, likely saw the bow as a symbol of the individual's ability to stand against the forces of evil. In the Chronicles of Narnia, the bow becomes a tool for defending the innocent and upholding justice, much like it did for the heroes of medieval legend. Lewis's personal life also played a role in his depiction of archery. Having lived through 2 world wars, he was acutely aware of the moral complexities of warfare. While archery in Narnia is often portrayed in a noble light, Lewis does not shy away from the harsh realities of combat. In moments of battle, the characters must confront the weight of their actions, the lives they take, and the consequences of their choices. Archery, with its emphasis on precision and distance, allows Lewis to explore the emotional and ethical dimensions of war in a way that is both personal and profound. In addition to its thematic significance, archery also reflects Lewis's belief in the importance of skill, discipline, and focus. The archer, unlike the swordsman, cannot rely on brute strength or aggression. They must be patient, deliberate, and precise. These qualities are reflected in the characters who wield bows in Narnia, individuals who must learn to navigate the moral complexities of their world with clarity and purpose. Throughout the Chronicles of Narnia, the bow emerges as a symbol of justice and order, a tool that the characters use to uphold the moral and social fabric of their world. In Narnia, where chaos and tyranny threaten to disrupt the natural order, archery becomes a way for the heroes to restore balance and protect the innocent. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Susan's bow is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of her role as protector and guardian of Narnia. When she takes up the bow, she is accepting the responsibility to defend her people and fight for what is right. Her arrows, guided by both skill and moral clarity, become a force for justice in a world that is teetering on the edge of darkness. Similarly, in Prince Caspian, the bow represents Caspian's right to rule. As the rightful heir to the throne, he must use his skills as an archer to defend Narnia from the corrupt Telmarines who have seized control. The bow, in this context, becomes a symbol of his legitimacy as a leader and his commitment to restoring justice to the land. The ethical dimension of archery in Narnia is also evident in the way the characters use their bows. Unlike swords, which are often associated with brute force and aggression, the bow requires precision and restraint. The archer must choose their target carefully, knowing that each arrow loosed carries with it the weight of moral responsibility. In this way, archery reflects the broader theme of justice in the Chronicles of Narnia, the idea that true justice is not about violence or revenge, but about making deliberate, considered choices that uphold the values of compassion and fairness. As the Chronicles of Narnia progress, archery continues to play a vital role in the battles and conflicts that shape the fate of the world. However, as the series draws to a close, the bow, like Narnia itself, undergoes a transformation. By the end of the last battle, the world of Narnia has changed irrevocably, and the characters who once wielded bows are forced to confront the end of an era. In the last battle, the final book of the series, archery takes on a new significance. No longer is it simply a tool of war, it becomes a symbol of the passing of time and the inevitability of change. As Narnia faces its final conflict, the characters who once fought with bows and arrows must now contend with the realization that their world is coming to an end. The bow, once a symbol of heroism and justice, becomes a reminder of what has been lost and what will soon be forgotten. However, even as Narnia fades into memory, the legacy of the bow endures. The skills, virtues, and moral clarity that the characters developed through their mastery of archery continue to shape their identities, even as they leave Narnia behind. In this way, Lewis suggests that the lessons learned through archery, patience, precision, and purpose, are timeless and transcendent, qualities that will guide the characters as they move into new worlds and new adventures. While archery takes center stage as a powerful symbolic tool in the Chronicles of Narnia, its inclusion in Lewis's fantasy world is not without deep personal and literary foundations. Born in Belfast in 1898, C.S. Lewis grew up during a time when the echoes of Arthurian legends, medieval chivalry, and classical myths held sway over the English imagination. Lewis's personal and scholarly interests converged in the Narnian universe, where archery emerges as both a reflection of his fascination with these old tales and a deliberate choice to imbue his story with a weapon that bridges the past with timeless moral questions. One of the likely influences on Lewis's portrayal of archery comes from his early education in classical literature. At Oxford, Lewis studied Greek and Latin works, which are rife with heroic archers. Consider Homer's The Iliad, where Paris fatally wounds Achilles with an arrow, a pivotal moment that shifts the fate of the Trojan War. This mythological moment echoes in Narnia, where seemingly simple acts of archery, like Susan's decisive shots, are imbued with far-reaching consequences. In both worlds, the bow becomes a weapon of fate, suggesting that a single, well-aimed arrow can change the course of history. Moreover, Lewis's deep love for medieval romances, particularly those of knights and their quests, no doubt influenced his decision to highlight the bow in Narnia. Medieval tales like Le Morte d'Arthur and the legends of Robin Hood often portray the bow as a noble weapon, wielded by just and moral figures. Robin Hood, in particular, stood as a symbol of justice for the oppressed, a motif that Lewis embraced fully in Narnia. Much like Robin Hood, the archers of Narnia fight not for personal gain, but for the restoration of peace and justice in their world. Interestingly, The choice to make Susan the primary archer among the Pevensie siblings reflects Lewis's progressive approach to gender roles in a genre that often sidelined female characters. While Susan's identity as the gentle queen might suggest a more passive or nurturing role, her mastery of the bow elevates her as a capable and active participant in Narnia's struggles. This choice may have been inspired by historical figures like Joan of Arc, who defied conventional expectations of women's roles in warfare, taking up arms to fight for a cause she believed in. From a personal standpoint, Lewis's experiences during World War I may have also shaped his portrayal of archery. Having served as an officer in the trenches, Lewis witnessed the horrors of modern warfare firsthand. His reflections on combat, particularly the distance and cold precision required to strike at the enemy, likely influenced his depiction of archery as a weapon that requires both physical skill and moral fortitude. The bow allows his characters to strike from afar, mirroring the emotional and physical distance that soldiers often feel in battle. Finally, it's worth noting that Lewis's inclusion of the bow and its relationship to justice ties into his broader theological framework. As a devout Christian, Lewis often grappled with questions of moral righteousness and divine intervention in his works. The bow, with its delicate balance between control and release, represents the tension between human free will and divine guidance. Just as the archer must rely on both skill and providence to hit their target, so too must Lewis's characters trust in both their abilities and the greater forces at work in Narnia. This is most evident in moments when Susan or Caspian fire arrows in battle, trusting that their actions are guided by a higher purpose. At its core, the bow in the Chronicles of Narnia is more than just a weapon of war. It is a moral compass, pointing the way for characters as they navigate the challenges and ethical dilemmas of their world. The precision required to shoot an arrow mirrors the precision needed to make moral choices in the face of overwhelming odds. The Narnian archer is not simply a fighter, but a figure of moral clarity, whose arrows are loosed not in anger or vengeance, but in the pursuit of justice. In many ways, the bow serves as a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical in Lewis's world. The archer, standing apart from the fray, must take aim with clear vision and a steady hand. This detachment allows for a degree of contemplation that other forms of combat might not. When Susan draws her bow, she does so not with haste, but with careful consideration of her target and the consequences of her shot. In this sense, the bow is a weapon of deliberation, forcing the archer to weigh their choices before acting. This connection between archery and moral responsibility is particularly evident in The Horse and His Boy, where the character Aravis uses her bow to protect her companions on their journey. Aravis, a young Calamini noblewoman, represents the outsider's perspective in Narnia, and her use of the bow marks her transformation from a self-interested individual to a protector of the greater good. Her skill with the bow reflects her growing understanding of the responsibilities that come with power and agency, a theme that resonates throughout the series. Additionally, archery in Narnia is often associated with moments of divine intervention or providence. Just as the archer must rely on their instincts and skill, they must also trust in forces beyond their control. This is most evident in scenes where Susan or other archers fire arrows that seem guided by fate or destiny. In these moments, Lewis suggests that the characters' actions are not purely their own, but are influenced by the higher powers at play in Narnia. The bow, then, becomes a tool for bridging the gap between human action and divine will, underscoring the series' recurring theme of faith and trust in the unseen. One of the most fascinating aspects of archery in Narnia is its role in the transformation of characters. The act of taking up the bow often signifies a pivotal moment in the character's journey, marking their transition from passive observer to active participant in the world's events. This is particularly true for characters like Susan Pevensie and Prince Caspian, whose mastery of the bow reflects their growing self-assurance and acceptance of their roles as leaders and protectors. For Susan, the bow is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of her evolving identity. At the beginning of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Susan is hesitant to fully embrace the magical world of Narnia and the responsibilities that come with it. However, as she becomes more adept with the bow, she also becomes more confident in her ability to make decisions and take action. The bow, in this sense, represents her growing autonomy and her willingness to step into a leadership role. By the end of the series, Susan is no longer the uncertain girl who stumbled into a wardrobe. She is a queen, capable of defending her people with both wisdom and strength. Prince Caspian's journey with the bow is similarly transformative. As the rightful heir to the Narnian throne, Caspian must learn to balance his desire for justice with the practical realities of leading a rebellion. His use of the bow reflects his ability to strike a balance between action and restraint. In moments where he must make difficult choices, the bow serves as a reminder of the precision and care required to lead effectively. Caspian's mastery of the bow symbolizes his growth as a leader, as he learns to navigate the complexities of power and responsibility. As the Chronicles of Narnia progress, the role of archery evolves in tandem with the changing world of Narnia itself. In the early books, archery is depicted as a noble and honorable skill, used to protect the innocent and fight for justice. However, as Narnia enters its final days in the last battle, the bow takes on a more somber tone. It becomes a symbol of the past, a relic of a world that is fading away. In the last battle, the once thriving world of Narnia is on the brink of collapse, besieged by forces both internal and external. The characters who once wielded bows in defense of their land are now forced to confront the reality that their world is coming to an end. The bow, once a symbol of hope and heroism, becomes a reminder of the inevitability of change and the passage of time. Yet, even as Narnia falls, the lessons learned through archery endure. The virtues of precision, patience, and purpose that the characters developed through their mastery of the bow continue to guide them as they face the challenges of their new reality. In this way, Lewis suggests that the skills and values associated with archery are timeless, transcending the physical world of Narnia and remaining relevant even as the characters move into new realms. Archery in the Chronicles of Narnia is not simply a physical skill or a tool of war. It is a symbol of moral clarity, personal transformation, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. Through characters like Susan Pevensie and Prince Caspian, C.S. Lewis explores the deeper significance of the bow as a weapon that requires not just physical precision, but ethical judgment and spiritual fortitude. The bow, with its delicate balance between tension and release, reflects the broader themes of Lewis's work: faith, free will, and the responsibility of making choices that impact the world. In Narnia, every arrow loosed carries with it the weight of these themes, reminding the reader that true heroism lies not in brute strength, but in the ability to act with purpose and integrity.